So welcome back to the channel. I hope everybody's been enjoying the videos we've been putting up so far. A lot of educational videos are out there. This one's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be education, but it's also going to be talking about strategy. So strategy basically is how do you take advantage of any market to benefit your own situation and get what you need the most efficient way possible, right? So at least that's my definition. So I'm here with my broker, who is Drew Laughlin. Drew and I started literally in the same classes together in the real estate business.
15 years ago.
You have more hair than I have now, so what's going on? So since this is Drew's first time on the channel, I want to give him a chance to tell you a little bit about himself and where he comes from.
Howdy, my name is Drew Laughlin. I am broker and owner of Realty Ohio, and as Rich said, we have pretty much grown up in the real estate business at this point, taking classes together in 2005, and both of us have been licensed ever since. I think both of us have seen all of the crazy over the past decade and a half, from foreclosures to now this absolutely nutso market. So, but yeah, just a lot of experience here right in front of you.
So let's hit on that a little bit. When we started in the business, everything was great, everything was booming, everything was awesome.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden 2009 occurred and crashed.
Yep.
We pivoted,
Yep.
went to foreclosures. We actually grew the brokerage during that time.
Yep.
We moved thousands of foreclosed properties all over the state of Ohio, small markets, big markets. So I would go out and do a lot of running. Drew would do a lot of the behind the scenes work and making everything happen from an operations standpoint. And we literally grew the brokerage, tenfold during that time.
Yep. We were doing, I think at the height, 100 to 150 properties a month.
Yeah.
So
that's where we come from. So we come from a very, very diverse experience, let's say.
Yep.
Those that don't know, I used to build homes and renovate homes and do those kind of things. Drew hasn't had that experience, but he's much more technical oriented than I am.
Yep.
So this is kind of two different perspectives to bring to the table. I'm married, but I don't have any kids, 2 dogs that think they're kids. Drew's married.
2 little ones, yep, 4 and a 6-year-old, which trying to do real estate with children is an interesting prospect.
So what we wanted to talk about today was how people could take advantage of a crazy market. Now everybody hears all the pitfalls of a crazy market, but we want to talk about some of the things that either we have done or some of the things we may suggest to take advantage of this particular market situation where it's a real tight inventory, super high appreciation rates, and people's biggest question, I don't know about you, but the biggest question I hear is, great, I have all this money in my house because prices are up,
Yep.
but what do I go buy?
Yep.
So we really want to hit hard on that. So just briefly, we're going to talk about how to get the most out of your house when you sell it. So Drew made a comment just a few minutes ago when we were prepping for this. Clean and paint. That's pretty much the best advice anybody can get. But you want to call your agent well in advance of when you're starting. And I personally have no problem going out to a house 6 months in advance to advise people about what they can do to get the most out of their house. I'm sure you do the same thing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So for those who don't know, Drew not only runs the brokerage, but he also does actively participate in the real estate market. So
Yep.
a lot of brokers don't do that.
Yep. I'm one of the crazy ones still.
So what are the other things you're seeing that will increase people's value when they're selling their home?
This is probably an age-old one. We've been using this for years, but curb appeal is one of the biggest ones I tell my clients to take care of. I just find that when people walk up to a house and they feel that it is well taken care of, edge lines on the lawn are good and there's no weeds and the plants look good, they walk up and automatically say, oh, this is a nice looking house. They're a lot less apt to have issues or find major issues inside the house if they at least get a warm and fuzzy walking up to it. So that is always a big one that I push on my clients.
And I'm always big on when you hit the front door, there's something interesting.
Yeah.
So if the architectural design of the house doesn't provide something interesting, put an interesting plant. This is the stupidest thing ever. But I had one listing that we put a painting in the front foyer because it was kind of a boring entry.
Yep.
We got more comments about the painting than we got about detriments of the house. We got, wow, what a cool painting.
And there's always so much gray and white you can do in a house before it's like, oh, this looks like everything else.
Right.
And in the world of neighborhoods and subdivisions and 2, maybe 3 or 4 design choices when the house was built in the neighborhood, doing something distinctive in your house to make them remember it helps a ton.
Cleaning the carpets, putting a coat of paint where there needs to be a coat of paint. Big things. These are really, really simple fixes. But now let's talk about, so like, they decide they want to put granite in because their cousin in Boise, Idaho did that and got a big return.
Right, right.
So this is not Boise, Idaho, number one. Number two, I honestly could make a recommendation in one neighborhood to do that, but go to the next neighborhood and you don't.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What are some things that the person who's not in the market 100% of the time like we are, what are some of the things that you've seen that people are like, hey, let's do this?
Obviously the clean and paint thing is a big one. Again, I want someone to feel like the house is not going to have any issues, and that if they're going to make one of those offers with no inspections, that they're not going to have any major issues. But beyond that, it's going to be looking at what the neighborhood does. You know, like you point out, granite countertops. If you're in a neighborhood where everyone has granite countertops, it's probably a good idea to do that. Whereas if you're in a neighborhood where most people have maybe the HD laminate that you might find at the hardware stores, that might be all you need to do. I run into a lot of clients where maybe they've been told by somebody else they need to go renovate everything in the house, and that's not always the truth.
And I see it all the time, and this is just a little dig on the industry. Sometimes it's more about the agent promoting themselves when they're giving a client advice than necessarily promoting what's best for that house in that situation in this market. Real important to note. I mean, in 2011, I was telling people to improve their homes to the max.
Yeah.
Because they were competing with everything.
Yep.
Now it's 2021. I'm not telling them to do that because, quite frankly, people want to do it themselves. They want to make it their own home. I had one client that wanted to put all new carpet in. And when I looked at the house, I said, you know what? The person who buys this is going to put all new hardwood in.
Yep.
So why do you want to put new carpet in so that someone can come in, tear it out, and put in new hardwood?
Yep.
Or if the kitchen's dated, you have 2 choices. You can, clean it up, make it look nice, or you can renovate the kitchen and put a whole new kitchen in.
Yep.
People that say put a coat of paint on a set of oak cabinets are giving you bad advice.
Yep.
Now that's universally bad advice. There is in-betweens there.
Yep.
So okay, that's just a brief overview on getting the most out of your house. The biggest thing, call your agent early.
Yep. Let us help walk you through some of the things that we know are happening in the neighborhood. And like Rich points out, going in and putting all new carpet throughout a house, it might cost you $4,000 or $5,000, and am I going to guarantee you're going to get that money back? Probably not. Shoot for the easiest things, in my opinion, to make the house look as well taken care of as physically possible. So.
And how much does it cost to talk to one of us about these things?
0.
Absolutely 0. We get paid when the house sells.
Yep.
Now hopefully you'll use us. Hopefully you'll like what we have to say. But if I go out and I give advice to someone and they end up listing with their brother, brother-in-law, whatever, I'm perfectly okay with that. But most of the time when I go out and look at a home, people understand that I have their best interest at heart.
Yep.
And that's really what you want to look for in an agent, is that they have your best interest at heart, not the commission check that comes with it.
I try to throw out there, it's 50% getting you the most amount of money for your house and 50% making the process as simple as possible.
Right.
And we already know that if you've got kids or dogs or just a lot of stuff, those are 3 things automatically that are already going to be hard to deal with. So I don't need to make it any more difficult by telling you have to go renovate the entire inside of your house.
Right. Okay, so we've had some consultations here with Bob Ross, and we've decided the place to go next is to talk about what you're going to buy. Because getting a house ready, I mean, that's important, obviously, but the single biggest question I get is, what am I going to buy? So, obviously, my tilt on things is to get great value. Now, Drew works with a little bit higher end clients sometimes that are looking just to make it easy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to come at this from 2 different perspectives, okay? So I'll run through my list, and then I'll give Drew the opportunity to run through his list. So if someone is looking to get great value after they sell their existing home, then we're going to have to lay out a strategy to be able to do that. We may have to deal with a group of folks called wholesalers, which I can do a whole separate video on that, but let's just say there's people out there that have homes that you don't necessarily see on the market, and we know those things. We may look at, if there's a particular neighborhood you're looking at, we may put together a marketing campaign to find your house off market. Now, of course, we're going to look on the MLS, okay? The one, though, that I'm finding a lot of success with is where people are actually building for equity. So they're doing that equity chasing, I think I've called it before. So what things are you recommending to folks that you're dealing with on the more, whether it be easy or whether it be even the equity chaser type folks?
I would say some of the biggest ones that I mention on a regular basis tend to be, if you're going to sell your house and take that equity and move into something that is more or fits your needs better than what you're in now. I always try to remind people you're going to have to look at 2 things. One, you can't change the location of the house, and for the most part, you can't change the layout of the house. So as long as the space works and you can make some things work in the house, for instance, if you need office space or an extra play space, which is one I run into all the time. People are looking at a property and it's only got 1 living space in it. Maybe the main living room, it doesn't really have anything else. But they're talking about having kids. They're talking about having family maybe stay with them. Now you have to start considering, what more do I need room-wise that I don't have now, and how am I going to use those spaces? And I'm sure one now, especially with COVID of the past year, is going to be workspace. Everybody's looking for extra work area that maybe have a desk for the office that they can shut a door. Or maybe it's just working outside. Maybe they just want to be able to go sit somewhere in the back patio and work on a computer versus sitting in an office the whole time. So those are things I'm regularly reminding to people, would you be okay sitting here with your laptop? Or would you be okay in this room? Could you shut a door if you had kids running through the house? Because I know with little kids, even though I tell them that daddy's on the phone, that doesn't mean that daddy is not going to be paying attention. So yeah.
Well, and one of the things that I've seen is people who were doing the hybrid learning are now realizing that, yes, the kids are going back to school, but they want to keep that learning space that they set up.
Yep.
Because they may do some supplemental online learning with their child in addition to them going back to school.
Yep.
Trying to catch up that time, or even trying to do some specialized education for those that are older. I'm finding a lot of two office workspace needs.
Yep.
Both are working from home. The biggest one, and this was a personal situation for me, but is the mother-in-law suite.
Mm-hmm.
So many people are now looking for that first floor guest suite / mother-in-law suite, you can call it, or whatever. But they're looking for the ability to have an older adult stay with them.
Yep.
How many homes are out there on the market with that already?
Not many.
Not many. So that takes us to the building.
Yep.
Now, like I said, we're going to focus in on the building. There's multiple different strategies that both of us do. But let's talk about the building.
Okay.
I'm finding more and more that builders aren't necessarily accommodating these needs because they want to see what happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I go out and interview builders that are accommodating these.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part for the consumer is finding it.
Yep.
So when someone wants to find out those types of situations, we study it all the time in the market, so maybe it would be a good idea to consult with us as we're out there in the market. I actually maintain a map of communities that is out there that, I have people contact me and they'll be like, well, I'm not sure what all is in Grove City. Well, I've got a map that my assistant maintains, a wonderful lady named Sarah. And she really takes care to make sure that every new community gets put on that list. Do you use my list?
I do.
So I benefit my whole brokerage that way. But the home designs, sometimes you have to look beyond just what's built.
Mm-hmm.
And that vision sometimes requires a professional that's seen it done before. So someone comes to you, Drew, and they say, okay, I need 2 offices.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned that we might not stay on this path. But right now, I need 2 offices.
Okay.
What's your advice to them going to be? Let's say they're building.
Okay. Funny is your list is a great one because there are multiple different tiers of builders, right? So you're going to have some builders that build retirement type communities. You have other builders that build, we call them tract builders, I think is one term, that tend to build a couple of different models in the same neighborhood, but don't do a whole lot of adjustments. And then the upper end, you tend to have fully custom builders that will build just about whatever you want, or they'll take their design and basically mod it to fit what you're looking for. Well, there are builders in the middle that will do a variation of a track and take it and adjust some of the interior pieces of it to fit your specific needs. So
Drew hasn't seen my house yet, but he would chuckle that I moved every wall in my house, but didn't build custom.
Yep.
That's what's called a semi-custom builder, right? So what I'm recommending to people that have that 2-office need, I never would recommend finishing a basement in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's time to look at creating what I call flex space, because it can be an office, it can be a teaching area, it can be a playroom, it can be a bedroom, it can be this, it can be that, where it has a lot of flexibility in its use. And then almost every house design that I'm seeing now has an office space.
Yep.
Because work from home started way before the pandemic began.
Yep.
Office space is probably the second highest demand item that I see.
Yep.
Give me a great kitchen and an office.
And get rid of the dining room.
Yeah. For those that are looking at plans for 2 office spaces, I just did a design where we took an existing formal dining room that can stay a formal dining room in the way we designed it, but we shrank at the doorways a little bit so that we could put a barn door on it.
Okay.
We closed off what was called a butler's pantry,
Yep.
created a bigger pantry, and snuck in a full bathroom.
Okay.
So now all of a sudden that space can be a bedroom,
Okay.
can be play space, can be an office, can be a dining room, can be all of these things. And we got a better functionality from the builder's plan.
Okay.
And we got an extra full bath in the house, which, how do you add value to a house, Drew?
Bathrooms.
Yep.
Always bathrooms.
So a house that had 2.5 bathrooms now has 4 full bathrooms.
Okay.
2.5 to 4. Great value add.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're going to spend money on something, bathrooms, kitchens, outdoor living space, those are the things. So everyone knows I'm a cheapskate on the channel if they watched anything. They know that I'm not a big fan of putting a lot of fancies into a house.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm a fan of maybe shopping those things. Is that a theory that you support with your buyers if they're looking to build?
I think it depends on situation for a lot of people. I have clients that don't mind a little bit of work. They're okay coming in and doing some updates themselves. I have others that want to move in and live life. They don't want to deal with anything in between. So
you're lucky. You get the easy clients.
they're all over the board, and especially in this market, you can't find anything. So you're showing stuff, total opposite ends of the city to find something that works that fits their needs. And I'd say even with some of the builders, that's true too. Some locations may work okay price-wise, and others may not. So,
well, and it's real important to point out that when you're looking at these kind of things, it's real important to have professional help more than before. Of course, we're agents. Of course, we're going to say that. Let's take that hat off that I'm in the business. This builder has a lottery. This builder is only building spec homes. This builder is a custom builder. This builder is a semi-custom builder. The average consumer out there doesn't know about that. They don't know the differences, and they don't know where they can fit into that puzzle.
Yep.
So literally people could spend 6 months driving around to model homes and not see what they want.
And I say a lot of people think that there's one or the other, right? Either you're building track house that it is what it is, you can't change anything, or it's fully custom and you're building $1 million house. Well, there is a middle ground in there. So.
And even some of the builders that don't change things in some communities will change things in other communities.
Yep.
Or you might hear that a certain builder has a lottery in a particular community. Well, they're not in every community doing a lottery draw.
Yep.
There is a builder that just went to only building spec homes right now. Mm-hmm. Now they've got 370 spec homes in the ground, but they're not advertised until much later. We find out where those properties are in advance.
Yep.
So that when that property is released, we're standing there ready to go with the client that fits that home.
Yep.
If you were building a new home, Drew, so you have a lot of experience, and if there's one person who's actually cheaper than me in his personal life, it's this guy right here. So if you were building a home and you were only worried about what you were going to do to build the highest amount of return on your money,
okay,
what are some of the things that you would do?
Ironically, the split level house would be one I would seriously consider. Split levels were really big in the 70s and 80s. I think they kind of fell out of popularity for a while. But now with people needing extra space, the split level, and 5-level split's been big with builders for a long time, but split levels tend to offer more space that is usable in a very similar footprint, square footage wise. So split level is something, and I even talked to my wife about this, that we would very much consider, because you stack them in such a way
I
that
know
you've
a great
got
agent to help you with that.
extra living space. It's great. It's absolutely great. And plus that, you got the storage, and that's something that I think people don't always realize either. Storage is a big deal, and you acquire crap through life, lots of crap, and I need somewhere to store that crap. So extra storage space in the basement, plus giving me playroom or an office space or whatever, is also a big deal right now.
So I happen to know that there's a new community coming up, and there's a long established, they're building out the last of the homes.
Okay.
Would you go into the new community, or would you go into the one where the community's done and we're building out the last? Now keep in mind, you're building for your equity position.
Right. I'm not a fan of a lot of competition, and I say this knowing full well I'm making offers for clients where there's 20 other offers on the house, but that builder really, really, really wants to get rid of that last house or two. They're really going to give you, not everything you want, but they're going to give you a lot more leeway if they know that they have the ability to sell that final house in the neighborhood.
And so this is one of the cool places where two agents can have two different opinions. I would go for the new community because I'll deal with the inconvenience, because I know that builder is going to continue to raise prices in that community. But literally, you can see that even two people educated the same market can have a different opinion. Now, all of that would be dependent upon our client.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what we think. It's our client's situation. If a client has, toddlers or something like that running around, construction spaces can be scary for some parents. If someone has teenagers that they want to teach how to have houses built, okay, yeah, it's awesome because they grew up around it, right?
Yep.
So that's just two examples of how the client may drive the decision. So would you put every upgrade into a house that you were building if you were building for equity?
No. No.
You have young kids. Would you put $15 per square foot carpet down in the bedrooms?
Nope.
Why?
They're going to destroy it. More than likely.
I have dogs. So there's absolutely 0 sense in me putting extremely high-end carpets in. I had extremely high-end wood floors in one house, and I learned the hard way that a 140-pound dog and softer hardwood floors, it was walnut. I found out that didn't mix. $20 a square foot, and literally it had to be finished before we sold the house. Where are the areas where you would put the money? Like, I'm going to put money in structural, because you can't change the footprint of the house easily.
Probably going to agree with that. I always tell clients to put it where you can't move something. If it means bumping out the back of the house to make that great room feel great, or the kitchen to give you extra space for a table because you got rid of the dining room, put the money in those things. You can always change cosmetics. You cannot change structurally, at least not cheaply.
Yeah.
So if space is the issue, deal with the space, and then you can do all the upgrades later.
So another one that I do is in a basement. You might not be finishing the basement today. But if you decided to finish a basement, putting a bedroom in a basement is a big addition to value. The only way to do that legally is to have an egress window or some other form of exit out of that bedroom. So putting that egress window in up front is about $1,200, $1,500. Putting it in after the fact is about $7,000 to $8,000.
Yep.
Flooring is one that people have heard me talk about, but kitchens. What would you do in a kitchen to be value conscious?
Maybe instead of going with the highest end countertops that you could do, maybe not doing that. Maybe going with the HD laminate because it's okay right now. For instance, as we're making this video right now, if you're trying to get quartz countertops, they're ridiculously expensive right now.
Oh, it's crazy.
Lots of different reasons, right? But you could, if you wait a year or two, those prices might fluctuate drastically the other direction. So that would be something I would recommend. Now, cabinets, I think, are probably in the middle ground. You probably want to go with the cabinets that you want, just because it's a whole lot more trouble to change cabinets.
Well, one thing I just found recently was a builder was building in a neighborhood to get white cabinets, which a lot of my clients like the white cabinet look. That's a popular look right now, kind of timeless. It was a 4th level upgrade. So we were looking at $12,000 worth of cabinets.
Yep.
The builder right next door, building in the same neighborhood, white cabinets were standard. The difference in the price between the two builders was about a $2,000 base price difference.
Okay.
So a $10,000 net difference. So that's one area. Any other areas that you can think of? We'll just go back and forth here.
I know one trick we were talking about earlier was instead of going for the 4th level upgrade on carpet, just increase the pad size. I know when I've done that before in other houses of my own, put a thicker pad, you'd almost have a hard time telling the difference between this carpet and a 4th level upgrade. It just makes it that much more comfortable. So
exactly. Something as small as doing a real hardwood floor, which that sounds really good, or doing an engineered hardwood floor. Now the question is this going to be a house that you're going to live in until you die, or is it going to be a house that you've got dogs, you've got kids, you've got things that are going to happen to the house. You like to work out in the garden and you're going to walk in with muddy shoes. If you put in pure hardwood floors, they can be refinished if you're going to stay there a long time. Or if you're going to have to change the floors out later anyway, engineered is half the price of real hardwood floors.
Yep. And doesn't engineered hardwood tend to be a little bit more, takes a little more abuse than regular hardwood floors?
Some of them, if you choose them right, and that's where using professionals that understand the different quality of materials. And the sales reps, many of them are very, very, very good. But they might not know the subtle differences between one version of a hardwood floor and another version of a hardwood floor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's another one that you would recommend to clients?
Tips and tricks. Well, we already talked about, or at least kind of touched on, I think, doing the structural changes or big upgrades like that. That's one thing I always recommend to clients, especially if they're very budget conscious. Again, you can always change cosmetic things later, flooring or countertops or paint, but changing the size of a room is either ridiculously expensive and basically cost prohibitive, but spend your money in increasing the living space of the house, not necessarily the upgrades of the house. You will thank us later for that comment when you realize, and I've had buddies tell me this before, they wish they would have bumped the back of the house out the 3 feet. They should have bumped it. So,
yeah. And one thing I think we'll universally agree on, paying for a builder to upgrade landscaping,
mm-hmm.
or paying a builder to put a deck on. Now, if you're just looking for a small patio, that's one thing.
Right.
Okay, small, regular concrete patio, sure, have the builder do that. But if you're looking for that big deck, here's kind of the inside trade secret to that. House builders typically don't build decks.
Mm-hmm.
There's specialized people that build decks. So what the home builder does is they'll go out and hire someone that builds decks to build your deck for you, and it will be a very nice deck. But it will be marked up from what you could go direct to that deck builder.
Mm-hmm.
Landscaping. I mean, you mentioned that curb appeal.
Yep.
Everybody wants that beautiful house on the end of the block, right? But most of that is landscaping.
Mm-hmm.
If you pay a builder, again, builders are not landscapers.
Yep.
They'll go out and hire a landscaper to do a really nice job for landscaping for you. But, number one, you'll be limited in choices.
Yep.
And number two, you will pay a markup on that because they're paying someone else to do it.
Yep. And a lot of times you want to live there, right? If you're going to build a deck or a patio, you might want to do it at the same time you build the house, but then realize 6 months or a year later, I probably should have done a little bit different. I probably should have done this design because it works better with the back of the house or the way that the sun hits, or maybe you've got a 3-car garage with a door in the back and you want a walkway back there. Live in the house a little bit and get the experience, so then you can say, okay, this is how we should do it. That's one big I recommend to clients all the time. Live there for a little bit and then make some of those choices. Also because you're not going to pay some of the higher prices.
So if you take nothing else away from this video, it's important that you look at a plan, not just walking into a model home, seeing all the pretty things, falling in love with it, and choosing that. I mean, if you're value conscious like I am, and I encourage my clients to be. Now, don't get me wrong, if someone wants to go build a large, perfectly decked out house, I'll help them get the best value for building a fully decked out house. Not everything has to be done after close to get good value.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just a small little thing I'll tag on the end here. Sometimes it's a matter of finding the best value with the builder because this company will build exactly what you want and you'll pay a lot of money for it.
Mm-hmm.
This builder will customize it to what you want and you'll pay $10, $15, $20, $40,000 less than what you would pay over here.
Mm-hmm.
It's just being in the market and knowing these things, and certainly, the average person on the street can't be expected to know those things. But that's what we do for a living.
Yep. Multiple times a year, too.
I think Bob Ross agrees, right?
Yeah.
Yep, he agrees. So, First, I want to thank Drew for spending the time to sit down with me. We'll be doing more videos together, I'm sure. And in addition to that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, share, subscribe, give Drew or I a call. Use us to buy your home in Central Ohio, and we'll see you in the next video.